Oh, hey everyone, it's Warren Hayes once again coming at ya with another AEW Dynamite review. Hope you're having a great week so far. We are going to be looking over the March 8 edition, March 8, 2023 edition of AEW Dynamite. And I'm recording this the same day. You know, usually my routine is that I assimilate everything that happened, take some notes, think about it, sleep on it, come back the next day fresh, different perspective, whatever. At least I try to. So this one might be a little more instant reaction-y than usual. We'll see what happens anyway. I'm sure everything will go fine. But we're breaking the formula a little bit because look, it is March break in the part of the world where I live right now. I have some time off, and we're going on a little March break expedition on Thursday. So I can't record it on Thursday. So I'm doing it on Wednesday, available nonetheless to you on Thursday, like clockwork. This Warren Hayes fella, this is what he does. Just puts out the content regardless. So in that aspect, consider giving the video a like if you're watching it on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, or subscribe to the channel at the same time, all together now. And that way you won't miss a thing. You won't even miss the Mr. Warren Hayes show proper. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, a 5-star rating on Spotify, those things would be fantastic and would be very much appreciative as well. Little things that help everything grow. Tiny little gestures of kindness that go a long way. But, as far as this show goes, we might as well dive right into it. We might as well just go right ahead. There's nothing holding us back. AEW Dynamite, as we said, this is where we're here. March 8th, this happened in Sacramento, California. AEW going up and down its California tour, finally coming to a close at the Golden One Center. Show started off with Orange Cassidy defending the AEW All-Atlantic title against Jay Lethal and successfully retaining it as well at the same time. No comedy spots in this one, right? There were no shin kicks, nothing with the pockets. This was all business here. Some back and forth, counter out of counter business between the two, which was really great until Cassidy kicks the arm of Jay Lethal as he was attempting a lethal injection. Orange Cassidy posts him shoulder first on the floor, but Jay Lethal, as we're getting back into the ring, dragon screws one of Orange Cassidy's legs over the ropes on top of that. Then he starts working the knee breaker into the post on the floor. A heat segment by Lethal, who just works on the knee, destroys it. More counters between the two that leads into a brain buster by Orange Cassidy, a diving DDT, satellite DDT on top of that. He goes for the orange punch, but he collapses under the weight of his injured knee. So Jay Lethal takes advantage and locks in a figure 4. They fight on the apron. Jay Lethal, they get back into the ring. Once they're back in the ring, Jay Lethal gorilla presses. Or did they do this on the floor? I'm drawing a little blank here. But look, the important thing, whether it was inside the ring or outside the ring, Jay Lethal gorilla presses Orange Cassidy and drops him into a standing position, right? So right on his leg, so to put more torque on the leg. The lethal combination connects, goes for the elbow drop, but Orange Cassidy gets his knees up, so that wasn't really great either. Bit of a last-ditch effort. The orange punch gets countered. Lethal injection gets countered as well. Well, it doesn't get countered. Lethal collapses because of the shoulder damage he took. And finally, Orange Cassidy lands the orange punch for the win. It was a fun little opener to kick things off. I enjoyed it. Thought it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the opener. I thought it was fine. I think we've had more exciting dynamic openers to Dynamite than this. But the work was solid. The work was solid here. After the match, though, Jay Lethal wants to use the Golden Globe because they still have that. They still have the Golden Globe. And that distracts the ref, which allows Jeff Jarrett to sneak in from behind, and he El Kabongs Orange Cassidy's knee. So I'm up out of my seat, cheering for All-Atlantic champion Jeff Jarrett. But later in the show, we'll connect all of this. We'll talk about it now since we're talking about the All-Atlantic title and all of it. We'll bring all of this together right here, even if it happens later on in the show. Tony Khan has an announcement. He's standing right there, looking like a CEO, owner of a wrestling promotion, and he has his microphone in his hands, and he says, because they love Shazam Fury of the Gods in collaboration with Warner Bros. Discovery, they're leveling up the All-Atlantic title in Canada, and they're renaming it the International title because they love the Fury of the Gods. And they're leveling up the title because in collaboration with Warner Bros. Discovery, the All-Atlantic title will be named the International title because the title's been leveled up. I'm not sure what Tony was he sort of went around in circles a couple of times there. He sort of, tried to make the same point 2 or 3 times. What is he trying to, has he been listening to the MrWarrenHayes show? Has he gone to the MrWarrenHayes show school of communication? It's a terrible school. It's not very good. Maybe he's the sole graduate. If so, where's the tuition fee? Anyway, so that's the big news that he had for the show and for the future of the All-Atlantic title, and naming it the International title. And it has been established, because we're doing this next week, in international waters in Canada. We're doing this across international borders. In Canada, we're going to have Orange Cassidy versus Jeff Jarrett for the newly crowned International title. And I got to tell you, this is great. I know this is not a popular opinion. I really do. I know how divisive Jeff Jarrett is, but he has been nothing but great in the role that they've given him as a talent. It's been fantastic. And if they want to strap the mid-card title on him, please go right ahead. I think it's a great idea. I'm all for it, actually, because he's an absolute heat magnet. And I think everything he's done has been precise. There has not been a single fail. I think the only reason that could keep people from complaining about what Jeff Jarrett has done is because they don't like him. And that is fine. There's wrestlers on this show who do things that I don't like, but I would assume that I would think that in my analysis, I'm capable of keeping certain things separate, and I don't expect anyone else to do that. And if you want, to listen to podcasts about that talk about Jeff Jarrett and how washed he is and so on, look, there's plenty of them out there. If you want a fan cast about it, go right ahead. But I'm going to give you the straight dope, as the kids say. I'm going to tell you straight up, Jeff Jarrett has been used excellently in this company. He has been perfect throughout the entire way. And I don't know why people get so upset when he is a mid-card act. He is at the most on your screen when he wrestles a quarter hour. We're not even talking about 15 minutes. I'm talking a quarter hour is the most time he spends on your screen at a time. And everything works. It's been successful. It's been quality stuff. I don't know what to tell you. I wish I could sit here and tell you, tell this old timer to hit the bricks. This has been entertaining and good. That's all there is to it. Now, that doesn't mean we can't get, Global Force Gold jokes off. It doesn't erase his, his past, his questionable past, and the decisions he's made and so on and so forth. But look, Jeff is, we talk about his father, but he's a chip off the old block. But anyway, I don't want to spend all this review talking about Jeff Jarrett, but I do want us to talk about Orange Cassidy here, because I mentioned, I talked about, I've been talking about Orange Cassidy a little more. I talked about him on the Revolution preview that I did. Well, when I say I've been talking about him more, I've been talking about him in a specific mindset here, where this title, now called and by the way, it doesn't bother me that there's a world title and an international title. It doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. There's like, you already have a world title, right? You already have a world title. Why do you have an international? Isn't the same thing? Who cares? Who cares? And bringing up the old international title, the old, NWA international title, that's maybe not the best comparison either. Like there's weird circumstances around there, about belts being lost and whatnot. But what do you think intercontinental means? How has everyone coexisted peacefully with the idea of a world title and an intercontinental title for decades and never said a thing when it's essentially the same thing? It means the same thing. I got Merriam-Webster right here before my eyes. Extending among continents or carried on between continents. Not unlike the world. What does Oxford say? Between continents. It's an adjective. Intercontinental. And yet, international is having they're having their brains melt. Anyway. I preferred this name to the All-Atlantic one. I thought it was cute at first. It's like, it doesn't make sense. Especially the first times that were gone off to be defended in Japan. It's like, well, if they go via the Atlantic, they're really adding on some travel time. It doesn't quite make sense. Anyway. I want to talk about Orange Cassidy here because listen, this guy, since winning the title last October, has defended this title 14 times. He's practically been on television every week defending the title in multiple circumstances. Not always yet. And and having solid matches throughout. And not always work rate phenomena. Sometimes he's going to have a match to do the ha-has and get the crowd and make the crowd happy, and that's part of it too. But he has had great matches alongside with it, such as his match a couple of weeks ago with Wheeler Yuta. He had his match with Katsuyori Shibata. He's been in three-way matches. Like we have to stop pretending. We have to stop pretending that, you know, all he does is, you know, that the gimmick is he's lazy and he doesn't do anything. He's constantly defending it. He is the workhorse of AEW right now, and that is the workhorse title. And I challenge anyone to prove me wrong here. But Orange Cassidy has had a fantastic run with this. Solid matches that have always been crowd pleasers. Some more heavy on the work rate than others. But you can't deny that he made this title. Makes it feel... It's on TV every week. It's either on Dynamite or on Rampage. Every single week. So it's kind of ironic, isn't it? That the guy whose gimmick is lazy, uninterested, you know, detached, dispassionate, is the champion that's been working the hardest on this entire roster. Everyone said, oh, what's next for Ricky Starks? What is doing the big stuff? We're going to talk about that, but there's only so long you'll be able to keep Orange Cassidy on the mid-card. Not necessarily saying that he has to have a world title run, but he can be positioned way higher than this. He could be mixing it up with guys higher than his station, as was once the case. Moving along, we get the information that Wardlow got broken in. His car got broken in. Lost his gear, his wrestling gear, his wrestling boots, and the TNT Championship. And when I say lost, I mean stolen. He posted this on social media, right? This leads to Powerhouse Hobbs being interviewed backstage. He says that would never happen to a guy like him. And he says he's winning the title tonight. Now, let's connect this a little later on in the evening. Wardlow is interview, and he's wearing FTR gear. And he says he stinks. It stinks. Well, maybe he stinks too. Maybe he hasn't had a chance to take a shower. Maybe he doesn't have his credit cards anymore, and you know he can't get his reservation because, like, sir, we need you to leave your credit card. I don't have my credit card. It was stolen. Well, sir, we can't give you a room without a credit card. You should go to an ATM if you can leave a cash deposit. I don't have my cards. They stole everything. I'm sorry, sir. We can't help you. Weirder things have happened. Anyway, he says it stinks that he lost everything, got stolen, but some of his friends let him borrow some gear, the FTR 7-star stuff, and he's in jeans and in boots. But then the story for the night, right? This is, you know, the story that commentary was telling in the lead up in these little pre-tapes, not these pre-tapes, but these backstage interviews that they were doing. The story that they were saying is, wow, Wardlow, you know, you must be, how do you feel? This has got to be, how's your head? Where's your head at? And that's the story that carried us into the main event. We'll get to that a little later. Then Ricky Starks hits the ring. people are happy to see Ricky Starks, aren't they? Of course they are. He says he's finally out of the Jericho vortex. No, that's not what he says. He says, he's done it. He's defeated the JAS, the 2 clean as a sheet wins over Chris Jericho. That's not what he says. I'm adding that a little bit of editorializing here. He says he's done it all, and now people are asking him, what's next? And the truth is, he's not sure. But the question is, it weighs heavy on him. And it's not even a question of what he's going to do, but where he's going to go next. Pause before we get to the meat of the matter here. Why does everyone in AEW want to leave the company? Why is this a thing? Why are we having these angles? Even if they are just run on the internet, and they don't necessarily boil over onto TV, they're still there. People are still working this. Why is it like, contract season's coming up? Look, I understand for MJF doing the bidding war of 2024 shtick. That works for his character. Plus, there's history to that as well, as you will recall. MJF, taking his ball and leaving and all of that. So, he is granted an exception on that level. But everyone, it seems like everything always comes down to, do I still want to be here? Why should I still be here? And isn't it a little exhausting? And doesn't that, as a fan, I think it's exhausting. And on the flip side, how does that help the perception of your company if the people you're hiring and putting on TV are like, you know what? I don't know how long I have left here. You're like, wow, that's thrilling. Look, for all the problems that I have with WWE, this is not an angle that they run of people going, well, maybe I don't want to be here anymore because WWE goddamn knows. They're like, no, we're supposed to be the center of a universe, the WWE universe. People are begging to be here, right? When they have the new NXT kids come in, they all run through the same promo. It's like, it's always been my dream to be a WWE superstar. So they're not going to come up and say, well, my contract's running out and I'm not sure I want to be here anymore. You don't see that in New Japan Pro Wrestling anymore. Only one guy did it, and it was Jay White. And again, that works for his character, but only one guy did it. Everyone else, all of the baby faces, they're entrenched and they're like, no, New Japan Pro Wrestling, let's go. Greatest company in the world. But AEW has, Dax Harwood on Twitter saying, well, can't wait for April to come around. Then Ricky Starks doing this and going, well, maybe I don't want to be here anymore. I don't know if this is what he was getting at, because I don't think this segment was great. I think it's, clearly we're seeding some things. I don't know if they're leaning into this idea of Ricky Stark, because leading into the Ricky Stark showing up at the Royal Rumble to support Cody. I don't know if they're, leaning into that in a off-color way, like not addressing it directly, but it's like, hey, do you guys know what I'm talking about here? Because if so, stop trying to bring Twitter shit, internet shit into your program. Because listen, one guy decided to do that, decided to bring the internet into his programming, into his wrestling programming when he was a booker. And that guy, by the name of Vince Russo, ended up tanking creative wherever he went because he wanted to cater to this online drama. So there's no point in doing this. And we have proof later on that the garbage that happens on Twitter has very little to do with what happens with your crowd reactions. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I'm shivering a little bit here. And if we go back to my review of AEW Dynamite, AEW Revolution, which you should listen to this because it was on the MrWarrenHayes Show podcast this week, I talked about 90 minutes about it. It's like, it was a whole, it was an entire pay-per-view itself, the review. If you go back and listen to that, when we were talking about Ricky Starks and getting out of this, this fabled Jericho vortex that I keep hearing about, right? Well, I know that a lot of people hear about. I did say the question is, it's not a question of whether this did good for him or not. It's what is the follow-up? That is going to be crucial because that on big feud follow-ups, Tony Khan has a propensity to not necessarily follow through with something exciting. And this is what I'm worried about. And having Ricky Starks come out to cut a promo where it's like, I don't know what to do next, and I'm not sure if I even want to be here, or where am I going to go next? That's how I should be framing it, right? I don't want to put too much editorializing in here, but I don't want to editorialize necessarily his words. His words were, it's not a question of what I'm going to do next, but where I'm going next. So that sort of goes womp womp in my brain. Now I see the Bullet Club theme hits. Juice Robinson is the guy who runs out to attack him, lays him out, and I shrug. I go, okie dokie, artichokey. God bless Juice for having a job in wrestling in the year of our Lord 2023, but he's a fine wrestler, don't get me wrong. Everything's okay with him, but this is what you're doing with your guy? This is what you're doing with Ricky Starks? Just out the gate is, he was in this really big feud with the world champion, with MJF, got him over bananas. He was in this really great feud with Chris Jericho that once again got him over bananas big time. And now we're going to Juice Robinson. Now, unlike the other place, and this is something that I catch myself doing, because I caught myself doing this when I was thinking about this. One of the things that we have a tendency to do, because of years and years of WWE being alone and doing just the one thing, WWE has to get into storylines, map out their big storylines immediately because they run a pay-per-view per month. This is not AEW's case. Now, the next pay-per-view is in May. It's in 2 months from now. So we don't have to run in with Ricky Starks having out of the gate establishing this is your big feud for Double or Nothing. This is the feud where and then have 8 to 9 weeks of the feud between these two people building, and then people maybe getting a little annoyed with it because it's repetitive, because they're always doing the same thing. So this could be a buffer zone. And in fact, this whole show felt like a buffer zone. It felt like a reset, okay, we're setting some pieces on the chessboard. And I'm hoping this is what we're doing with Juice Robinson here. This should, if this is not leading to something bigger, such as a certain Switchblade showing up to continue on Bullet Club of America in AEW. Because I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was interesting that it was not Rock Hard's theme that was used. Rock Hard Juice Robinson theme. Not his version, not his Bullet Club version of the theme. It was the Bullet Club theme, you know. That one. No Juice Robinson graphics. No, it was Bullet Club. I don't want to get into fantasy booking too much, and I don't want to start, but it does. I feel like this is a detail that should not be overlooked. And I'm definitely not sitting here saying Jay White is on his way to AEW. But it certainly feels like there might be a little something more to it. Despite the fact that I, like many people, feel like Jay and WWE would be a good fit. We could, how successful would it be? Who knows? Who knows who will be in charge of creative? But I think this, I don't necessarily opens the door to Jay White entering AEW. Maybe leaves it ajar a little bit. The crack of light shining through. You just look over and you're like, someone left the door open. But it's not like wide open. So outside of that, outside of Ricky Starks becoming a target for a reinvigorated Bullet Club, outside of that, what if that doesn't happen, if it doesn't build to something bigger, whatever this Juice Robinson thing is with Ricky Starks, it has to be quashed next week, and Ricky Starks has to win handily. That's the only way to go about this. Because if this drags on, if this becomes a thing for Starks, him and Juice Robinson, then yeah, I think we can start talking about Tony maybe screwing the pooch here a little bit. Because that felt like a demotion. When I saw Juice run in, I was like, wow, really? This is what we're doing? This is the thing? I can understand Juice Robinson going, I'm going to attack the new fresh guy and I'm going to make a name off him. That's fine. But that's what I'm saying. But, this has to be handled quickly. Ricky Starks has to punctuate this with a decisive win. There can't be any there can't be any room left to interpretation here. He has to come for it, right? He has to get rid of Juice. So I'm a little worried about this follow-up. Guys, gals, non-binary pals. I really am. But we'll see. Tony has different booking patterns, and they're absolutely not WWE's, and we don't have to jump into this clear, obvious feud out the gate. But we got to be careful of Ricky's heat, because Juice ain't the guy to keep some momentum going. Juice has to be a stepping stone to something, and it has to be dealt with quickly. On a side note, I just want to point out, because I want this on the record, I just want to point out that Adam Cole is returning to pro wrestling, and everyone is convinced that he's going to be this massive babyface at a company that is in desperate need of top heels. Suddenly the Bullet Club logos start popping back up on screens. Jay White is available. Adam Cole saying, the roster up and down is great and you have to come prepared. How does Adam Cole come prepared to his matches? He's got backup. He's got people watching his back. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but I do want to be on the record of saying, look, there are a lot of connections you can make here if you want to, because there's no way Adam Cole is staying a babyface. There's no way. It's a swerve, bro. And the Bullet Club stuff, Jay White, it's all very fishy. Mark my words. Renee Paquette is in the ring interviewing Ruby Soho. Ruby cut a great promo. She comes out. They have to drop the Ruby Soho tune, though. They have to drop the Pennywise song because it's a babyface theme. It's a babyface anthem. You know, you want people to sing along with it. That's what people do. You want Taz to sing along with it, and it's a good time. Now she needs something else. She needs Mikey Ruckus to pull up like something from the Misfits, a Misfits sound-alike. Something to that effect. I think that would be a good trade-off. Some Millen-Collin. Dinosaur Jr. Nah, Dinosaur Jr. is not quite, maybe not. Anyway, Ruby gets to the ring. Why, Ruby? Why is what we want to know. She blames the fans for creating this monster. She says, and so it's like, oh, this is a you people thing. But, you know, as opposed to just being a you people turned on me, you know, like, she actually has some very good points. She says during her first match against Britt Baker, people were happy she lost. Not untrue. In the semifinals of the Owen Hart, where she faced another homegrown talent, Chris Statlander, she was booed when she beat Statlander. And I remember that. Ruby was like, okay, motherfuckers. So at Revolution, when Jamie Hayter pinned her in the middle of the ring, she realized no one was ever going to come to her defense. No one was ever going to be mad that she lost, so she snapped there. Like, she didn't say that, but ultimately, it was a snap decision. Everyone was saying, what a weird thing for her to attack and then do this. Well, it was a snap decision. We have it makes sense. Just make it make sense. And it made sense to me. She says Tony, and Saraya are in the same boat. She calls Saraya's haters fat, neck-bearded, mouth-breathing trolls. And that came from a very visceral place, didn't it? Oh, that shit struck a nerve. They've been outcast since the moment they arrived in AEW. And then talks about the entitled little shits in the back, the rookies that think that they deserve the world like Skye Blue, which leads us into the match against Skye Blue. Ruby beats her up as she hits the ring, hits an STO, and has a big heat segment, Saito suplex. Skye Blue fights back, lands her ground enziguri and a crossbody. Ruby yanks her hair, lands a destination unknown for the win. After the match, the rest of the crew join up with Ruby, and Ruby starts to spray paint Skye when Willow Nightingale comes out, tries to talk sense into Ruby. It's too late now. The heels gang up on Willow. They beat her down. And in all likelihood, some of the most heat-generating stuff in this feud, in this angle, I should say, so far, because Willow Nightingale is so beloved. She's so beloved by the fans. Why would you do this? Why would you turn on lovable AEW homegrown talent, Willow Nightingale? Ruby, what's wrong with you, Ruby? Anyway, that was your women's match for International Women's Day. Look, I've said it numerous times. I think AEW's women's roster is extremely talented, and they have some really fantastic talent on their roster. They really do. There is a lot of things that AEW can't seem to do right with the women's division. And it feels second class because it's treated second class. And as I've said multiple times in my multiple years, well, my 5 years now, it's coming on 5 years of doing this. Said it multiple times. You want your women's division to feel special, you have to book it special. You have to book it like it's meaningful. That is what a booker's job is. Taking a talent and saying, this is someone that I want to push. This is someone that I think that you should be interested in, that you cheer for, that you boo. This is the star that I want you to get behind, so on and so forth. And the reason that we're so wishy-washy in regards to the women's division in AEW, it makes no sense to me, not with the amount of talent that they have. And we've seen that it should not be difficult to get these women over, because I was praising the work that they were putting in, they being, creative, the bookers, whatever you want to call it, Tony Khan. I was praising the work that was being put in the women's division, a few months ago, when they were doing all these tag teams and three-ways, which reminded me a lot of what they do in New Japan. They just, in a good way to get women over. Just have your talented women get in the ring and wrestle. That is the best way to get them over in a company that is so, in which the bar for promo work is so high. You don't need to have them go cut promos every week. Not when you have talent that can work, because the AEW fans will appreciate good work rate, and that will get you over. That's why Jamie Hayter became what she was. It wasn't because of her outstanding promo skills. It wasn't because of the finesse of these grand storylines she was put in. Jamie Hayter became one of the top 2 women in the women's division because of her work, because of her in-ring abilities, bell to bell. And I don't know why there isn't more of that. And when they do it, sometimes they do it with women who you're like, they can't get themselves over this way. It's not going to work this way. But with everyone that they have now Riho is back on top of that. Nyla Rose should be focused on more, because Nyla is a success story for this company as far as improvement, becoming a fully fledged pro wrestler, from the in-ring skill to the mic abilities. You got Riho, you've got Shida, you've got Hayter and Tony Storm and Britt. Statlander when she gets healed. And Willow. And I'm forgetting people. Look, Yuka, if you want to keep bringing Yuka back. There's too much talent. There are too many solid performances. Look, Emi Sakura last week on Rampage tore the house down. And she's in North America all the time. Like there's no reason that you can't develop your women's division more than what you're doing. So we're at the exact same place that we've been with AEW since the start. More faith in the women and put the right women in the right spots. I think everyone feels that this is going towards a women's blood and guts match. And sure, I'd go for that. That's fine. But it's got to, where's the essence in all of this? Why is Jade Cargill still living in her own universe? Like, at this point, there needs to be crossover. Look, it's an AEW Dynamite review. We're going to stick to that for now, but these topics are not done. But look, in all honesty, if you haven't heard me say this before, well, welcome. But this is one of my numerous broken records. There is not a single North American promotion that does well by its women's division. It just doesn't. There's some that maybe they book more matches, maybe they, but either they're they're not booking their women to their strengths, or they're not pushing women who are ready to be in those spots, or maybe they are just completely flubbing everything because of really bad creative. The only place where women wrestlers are allowed and treated like athletes, performers, and not attractions or a division, it's in Japan. If you want the best women's wrestling on the planet, it ain't in North America that you're going to find it. It's in Japan. Let's move on. Adam Page is interviewed backstage by Renee Paquette. She asks him, I know how John's doing. How are you doing? He says, well, he says he's been better physically, but his soul and heart are doing just fine. And what he did on Sunday, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. And in his mind, as far as he's concerned, he's done with Mox. Okay. Back from commercial, we get an MJF pre-tape. Shot after his Revolution win, he is jubilant. Made the dragon tap out, he says. So he's thrilled. He's single and ready to go celebrate in San Francisco. And it just so happens it's his birthday next Wednesday in wretched Winnipeg, is what he said, which made me cackle because it's true. But he's not having a banal birthday party. No. He's having his re-bar mitzvah. And his reign of terror has just begun. I will see how this goes. But these championship celebrations, that reeks of WWE. I don't like it. By default, the walls are up. But let's see how this evolves next week. But I'm a little, look, I don't know what a rebar mitzvah is. Pretty sure it doesn't exist. Look, I'm not a theologian. I'm not deeply entrenched in Jewish customs. I couldn't say. But something tells me that's not a thing. FTR hit the ring. 2 enormous reactions from the audience. Huge reactions. Almost as if all this FTR hate is a Twitter thing. Cash and Dax cut a promo, mostly Cash actually, who's I saw on Twitter someone how a lot of people call them FTR bald and FTR bald and FTR hair. I saw someone call Cash FTR quiet today. That was funny. So they said they needed to step back. The last few months, they lost all their titles and lost one of their best friends in the world, of course, referring to Jay Briscoe. They cut a promo on the Guns. But the story here, very good promo, by the way. But the story here is how much this crowd ate up every word of this promo, every moment that FTR was in that ring. People were hanging on every word. This was one of the most successful segments of the night. What am I saying? Segment quarter hours. If only for that. I'm including matches in this. This was a tremendous reception. So as I was saying a little earlier, I'm going to come full circle here, talking about how people overreact on Twitter. I swear, FTR feels like one of the most hated acts in the country. And then they hit the ring. They show up at AEW, people roll out the red carpet for them. You cannot look at this and not state objectively, FTR are one of the most over acts in the company. Absolutely over. But all I see, on Twitter and in the Discord, it's like, grumpy, fucking FTR, never happy, always complaining, always bitching. And does it turn out to just be a work? I think it sure seems that way. Again, I talked about it on the review this week on the Mr. Warren Hayes show proper. I don't want to go too deeply into it, but the new work, because I think a lot of people are just mad that they got worked at this point by FTR, taking pictures of their coffee or whatever they're drinking. Oh, is there a WWE logo there on a sheet of paper? Just a little out of frame, but you can make out that. Oh Lord, did I post that by accident? Oh gee willikers. Oh, can't wait for April to come around. That's where our contracts are up. Isn't that right? Contracts are up in April. Can't wait to hit the bricks and go back somewhere else and do our own thing and hit the independents. When just a few months ago, Dax was cutting interviews saying, we like Tony Khan, he's a great boss. People making connections. Oh, it's because of the CM Punk stuff. It's like, Jesus Christ. And now people are just mad that they got worked. People are just angry that they got worked. But the new work, folks, in wrestling in 2023, the new work, and it is effective, by the way, but the new work is to make smart fans get into contortions to try and explain what's going on. Try and say things that smart fans will interpret at face value. And there's a lot of so-called smart fans, right, that can't seem to tell the difference as to when a wrestler is lying to them or not. And all the credit goes to said wrestler. Because if Dax Harwood, over the past, since he started his podcast, right? If he's been saying things and tweeting things and putting things on his Instagram that people are picking apart and trying to find meaning to it as, does this mean that? Then that is all to his credit as a professional wrestler, as a worker. And it's funny how then everyone who bemoans the loss of kayfabe then turn around and they're like, no, and turn around and get mad when they are being kayfabed by pro wrestlers. I don't understand. I understand it. I understand people have egos and they don't like it. That's all. Jade Cargill is interviewed backstage with Renee. She says in Winnipeg next week, she'll fight whoever whack-ass Canada has to offer. I have officially petitioned the Governor General of Canada to change the name to whack-ass Canada, because if that's what Jade wants to call it, we should just comply. She's not being challenged, so who is she being offered up? Look, there's a lot of great suggestions being thrown around. I tossed, we were talking about it in the Discord. I tossed Lufisto into the conversation. A lot of people went directly to Jody Threat, who has history with AEW at this point, and Jody would be fantastic. Don't get me wrong. We have Nicole Matthews that popped up. Taya Valkyrie also seems like a good connection, but I don't know if a lot of Canadian fans know that Taya is Canadian. But maybe that's another good connection. I also saw someone talk about Sarah Stock, which would be a badass. So we'll see how all this goes. Jericho Appreciation Society was up next, defeating Top Flight in a trios match. I'm going a little long here. Might skip the play-by-play. Fine little match. Nothing to write home about. Although AR Fox's implosion senton to the floor was just absolutely fantastic. Aubrey gets distracted. Hager tosses a bat. Darius eats it. Jericho lands the Judas effect for the win. But after the match, the Jericho Appreciation cut a promo. The Jericho Appreciation Society cut a promo. Not the status of appreciating Jericho, but the Jericho Appreciation Society cut a promo saying that they should be the number one contenders for the trios titles. The lights go out. We're expecting the House of Black, but no, they come back up. It's the Elite. Kenny Omega starts cutting a promo, starts talking about how he and Jericho have a question. It's a question of mutual respect if they haven't stepped on each other's toes too much over the past 3 years. But Don Callis grabs the mic to some irritation in the rest of the Elite. They trade Winnipeg barbs. I don't know why I beg anyone to visit Winnipeg once in their lives. To just get, God bless everyone who lives there. Like it's a fine place. Anyway, shout out to all my listeners in Winnipeg. Kenny Omega. So no, we talked about Kenny Omega. So, but Callis is, he's sticking up for for Kenny Omega, saying, if I were to start training Chris, you would only be the third best wrestler from Winnipeg, right? And the House of Black show up and challenge both teams. So we're getting a three-way tag team, a three-way trios match for the trios titles next week. Blah. Not a fan, but let's continue. I mean, I'm not a fan of the question of a three-way, right? For titles. You guys know this. I'm a fan of all 9 of those gentlemen. Maybe not Sammy all that much. We get a pre-tape from Bryan Danielson, shot after losing the match at Revolution. He says he wanted to teach his kids about fighting for their dreams, right? But MJF made him realize he's right. He always put himself in front of his family, and he realized it when he couldn't feel his arms when he was in the label lock. So he says maybe MJF was right. Maybe it's time for Dragon to go home. He leaves. Fantastic promo. Authentic, real. I keep telling you guys, Bryan Danielson, greatest North American to ever do it. I'm telling you. But let's go back here to the promo here. So, I mean, this is what they're going to start sprinkling, right? And I've been talking about this for weeks at this point, because Danielson brought it up at some point in an interview. He's like, I'm seeing myself. He started talking about retiring. About, pulling the plugs and, I've seen and I've done enough. Of course, he's a worker. He could be lying. This is, is this the retirement announcement? But probably not, but we don't know at this point. But you all know how wrestlers in retirements go regardless, right? But, this was the implication, right? He didn't use the word retirement, but maybe it's time for Dragon to go home and take care of his kids kind of thing. And they're like, okay. So we are setting this up as a story bump moving forward for Danielson. Does he still want to continue wrestling? And I said multiple times, if Danielson, we have Bryan Danielson right now, and the specter of his retirement is looming. He's been talking about it. Now they're leaning into it. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it'll probably arrive sooner than we expect. The guy's financially set. He's doing this because he wants to go out on his terms. He wants to go out a fighter, right? He wants to go out doing some pro wrestling. And he's been having an extraordinary year so far. If Danielson continued this streak of extraordinary wrestling matches, this is a shoo-in for him being Wrestler of the Year. maybe this is the kind of thing that he wants, or maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how this guy's brain works, you know? So we have him right now. We should be savoring every moment that we have left with Bryan Danielson because he's still competing on a level that is insurmountably great, that is challenging even the great years that everyone says he had, in his halcyon days in Ring of Honor. But we don't know how much time he has left. We don't know, but we're going into it. But that's it. We don't know how much time he has left. We should be savoring every moment that we have. I don't think. Look, if you're asking me at this point, I don't know. What does my gut say? My gut says this is a work. It's an angle. Zack Sabre Jr. at the Ring of Honor tapings. At the Ring of Honor show last week, just flat out called out Danielson, right? So maybe Danielson is like, okay, I'm calling it quits. I'm calling it a night. Thank you. Good night, everyone. But Zack Sabre Jr. is like, come on, you coward kind of thing. Are you really going to leave on this one? Because that's a match everyone wants. I want that. But the seat is set. What is next? There's a lot of that tonight, right? What is next? What is next? And it feels like a reset. And it feels like the Winnipeg show is going to cross some T's and dot some I's. Anyway, fantastic promo by Danielson. Claudio Castagnoli and Jon Moxley defeated the Dark Order. I thought this was sloppy. Didn't think it was all that great. Not necessarily going to do the breakdown, but has the train passed on the Dark Order? Did we miss the peak? Spoiler alert, I think we did. If not, if what we're doing here, because right after the match, let's do this at least. Mox breaks up the Dark Order, Silver and Reynolds when they do their combo moves, right? He breaks that up and locks Reynolds into a reverse Anaconda Vice for the win. And after the bell, Mox won't let go. So Evil Luna runs in for the save. He gets overwhelmed by the Blackpool Combat Club, including Wheeler Yuta, who is there as well. Hangman Page runs in for the save. He tries to have everyone keep their cool, but he gets whomped by Claudio Castagnoli. It's chaos. So everyone's like, oh, finally the Blackpool Combat Club turn heel. I don't know. What we should be focusing on here is trying to get some heat on the Dark Order, because here's the problem. This is where we're hitting a wall here. This is the wall that unfortunately we've reached in regards to the Dark Order, is they've been jabroned so much. We've gotten to a point that it's hard to believe in them. I don't care. Not that I don't care, but I don't believe the Dark Order can pull off a win on any level, because they never have. Because they've always been put in these hope situations and it always falls apart. They never deliver. They never win a big one. So when we have Mox here, and the opposite is you have the Blackpool Combat Club, which is like the apex of violence and destruction in this company. Of course, like I'm watching this and I'm like, why are these guys feuding against the Blackpool Combat Club? They're going to chew them up and eat them alive. Like, I thought we were going to do this match. BCC was going to beat them handily and move on to something else. But no, we're going to lean into this. So what they have to do, what they need to do is heat up the Dark Order and fast. Because I don't know anyone who... I think you have to be a diehard Dark Order stan at this point to be like, yeah. Because I'm looking at this and I'm like, lukewarm at best. And honestly, I was ready for Hangman to move on to something else as well. When he said, I'm done with Mox, I'm ready to move on, I'm like, sweet pickles. Let's keep moving. Let's keep the Hangman train chugging down, choo choo. But we're going back to Mox and the BCC and all of this. And look, maybe it'll be more of a Claudio thing. And that's another issue that I have. I feel like the Ring of Honor people should be on Ring of Honor at this point. I think this is going to be a detriment to Ring of Honor. Don't get me wrong. I love Claudio. I love Wheeler. I love both of those guys. I think they're fantastic. But there needs to be separation in these rosters if Ring of Honor is going to be successful. Because if I can see Claudio Castagnoli on AEW, every week or so, I'm okay with, he's not that much of an attraction for me then for Ring of Honor. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of weirdness here, but look, it's a reset show. See how things go. And we get a backstage segment with the Acclaimed and 2.0. They're setting up a match. Fine. And the main event, Powerhouse Hobbs defeats Wardlow. They had made this match. I forgot to mention this earlier during Wardlow's promo. They decided to make this a Falls Count Anywhere match because Wardlow's like, look, I don't have my gear. I don't have anything. So let's just go. So, okay. And this starts in the parking lot in the garage as the guys beat each other up on a car. And I think it's it's not like a Nissan Sentra, it's a fucking it's like a Cadillac. It's like a really nice car. And they're just, crashing through the windshield and shit. They just mangle the car. They start fighting towards the arena. Hobbs swings a 2x4 at Wardlow. Wardlow throws him through a container, like one of these storage containers, and he just throws him through it, like right through the wall. Spine buster in the ring by Hobbs. Lands another one as well. And another on top of that. Hobbs launches Wardlow through the barricade and he gets a table out. Wardlow swantons off the top rope through the table. Beautiful stuff. Powerbomb up on the ramp by Wardlow. They go up to the announce position. They fight up there and QT Marshall arrives out of nowhere. Chairs Wardlow in the back. Beats him up some more with the chair. And he and Hobbs work together to chuck him off the stage. He falls into a cushy little... I saw an area, right? And I saw a tweet which makes... And it just popped into my head, so I don't have the credit, and I apologize. But AEW, when they do these spots, it's either one of two things. Either it's a spot where... when they get thrown off a stage, it's a spot where the guy doing it looks like he's about to kill him, lands and looks like he, permanently damaged himself, or lands into, just a series of crash pads and everything is too safe. It's either one or the other. Like there's seldom a middle road. But yeah, no, Wardlow can't beat the 10 count, so Hobbs wins. TNT champion. So look, this was the plan. Get the title off of Joe, probably to send him back to Ring of Honor with the TV title, which is fine. Take the title off of Joe, with Wardlow to sort of put a bow on that little feud, so we can lean back into this feud it's not new. Hobbs and Wardlow have had issues in the past, so we're back to that. And on top of that, this all made sense. And commentary made sure that we understood that it made sense. Just a passing segment just months ago where QT was like, I've got your back for what you did for us. I will pay you back. You have my word. QT Marshall. QT Marshall makes good on his word. And then QT announces on Twitter that the Nightmare Factory is done. Broke apart. We did some cool shit together. So does this imply that QT and Hobbs are going to be working together now? Are they going to be a duo? QT Marshall being a manager type, working, and I think that's a good idea for Hobbs. Not that Hobbs can't talk. I think he's a good talker, but limited. If you get a hype man like QT, I think it's fantastic. I think it's a good pairing. Now, how do I feel about the way he won? Well, okay, it makes sense. It makes sense because this has been, it was a seed that was planted months ago that everyone had forgotten about. And now it's brought back and you're like, holy shit. So it makes sense. Just because it makes sense doesn't mean it's good. Things can be logical and still be awful. I ate rancid clams. That's why I'm sick. So it makes sense why I'm sick, but being sick is still awful. I just should not have eaten the rancid clams. That may or may not be based on a true story. The point here, though, is that I'm not convinced that this was a great way to do it. I think Hobbs should have won maybe a little more handily. We're not used to these types of fuck finishes in AEW. So they always come off as a little weird, little off-putting. Is it that big a deal that Wardlow, Hobbs didn't win clean? No, but also yes. And it goes back to what I say sometimes. Look, if there's guys you have to protect here, don't run the match. Pardon me. Like I get that they're holding on to Wardlow being a monster, being a top guy. But you can't have it all. You can't eat your cake and have it too. You need to be able to draw a line. And I think Hobbs would have really benefited from a big, strong win because that was what we were going for. Maybe not something as assisted. That did come off a little strange. Not sure I'm a fan. Because if the reign of Will Hobbs, Powerhouse Hobbs, as TNT champion is meant to be tainted the entire way, I think you're doing the guy a disservice. Because this is a guy that can get himself over as a monster heel, just destroying people without any help. Maybe he needed a little help because it's Wardlow. But if he's fighting Peter Avalon, I hope to hell QT doesn't get involved. That makes sense? That's where we're at with the AEW Dynamite review this week. Look, overall, I don't think this was a great effort. I think it felt like a reset. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of interesting questions that come out of this. There's a lot of intrigue that comes out of this. I feel like next week is going to be punctuated with a lot of precisions, maybe some surprises, things that we weren't expecting. But as far as in-ring goes, like this is one of the most forgettable Dynamites. Like nothing connects as far as, in-ring stuff goes. This was a blank. FTR had a fantastic segment. Ruby had a great promo. Felt like a reset. And that's it. Like, the thing here, let's not forget, we don't have to start selling a pay-per-view that's going to be on in 3 weeks. We can take some time. We can let things simmer. And not everyone is going to be back on this cycle of booking. Not everyone is going to be back. So we'll see how things go. But we're going to wrap this up for this review. Thank you very much for watching on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Leave a like if you haven't already. Subscribe if you can. And thank you for listening on your favorite podcast application. Reviews, ratings, all that stuff. Appreciate it a great deal. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.